This should move fairly quickly, I would imagine.
Here's a little preview of what Prairie Meadows is doing.
And they hold.
Let's go ahead and
begin.
Yep. All right, I want to welcome everybody to the January 24th Des Moines City Council meeting. Prior to our start this evening, we're going to have a quick invocation by our own council member, Brian Meyer.
Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you.
As clerk take roll, please. Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Moore. Here. Reese. Mahaffey. Here. Hensley.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and or as amended. Could I have a motion for that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Agenda is accepted. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda tonight. Those are items 3 through item 40. These are routine items and will be enacted as one roll call vote unless there are some items either pulled off by members of the City Council or members of the audience for further discussion or clarification, and then we will consider those separately. Tonight, item 4V, Y, and double H, Councilmember Moore wishes to speak. Item 4Y, Councilmember Hensley votes no. Are there any other items to be pulled off for other discussion this evening on the consent agenda?
I'll move.
All right. It's been moved. Items 3 through 40.
7 yes.
All right. Mr. Moore, do you want to talk about all of these together or separately?
I can do them each separate real quick.
Okay, let's start out. This is approving the alcoholic beverage license applications for the following. This is item V first, which is Maccabee's Deli at 1150 Polk Boulevard. Mr. Moore.
Evidently, Maccabee's had pulled some kind of a construction permit, and they haven't got the final sign-off on it, and I'd like to continue this until February 28th so they can get their paperwork in order.
I think it was withdrawn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
That was the other one. That was Z.
To February when?
These
28.
John.
28th?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
It has been withdrawn.
It says withdrawn.
It is not. We're going to leave it on the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Moore's continuance.
Okay.
Kind of went back and forth today on that.
Okay, that's your motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item Y is Michelle's Lounge. Ms. Moore?
We all received a packet anonymously of some additional information on Michelle's, and it was forwarded to the police department, and I think we've all got the letter back from the police department on it. Is there anybody here from the police department to speak on it?
David Ness, the Police Department Vice Narcotics Control Section. I believe you've received my email correspondence. I'm just here to answer questions if you have additional.
Any other questions?
You didn't find anything on there that would cause us not to renew her liquor license, did you?
Ultimately, of course, that decision's up to you, but our recommendation was to confirm or renew her license.
I'm going to move it.
Item's been moved. Mr. Coleman.
6 yes, 1 no.
Last is Double H Trophy Sports Bar at 2701 Douglas.
The Thompsons didn't have their paperwork completely filed today, and it's to be filed 30 days previous to the hearing. I'd like to continue theirs until the 28th. They're a really good establishment, and there's very little trouble there, and I'd just like to give them enough time. They tried to get it in today, and they just couldn't quite get it in, so that gives them their 30 days.
Any discussion, anyone in the audience or at the table? Have a motion?
I'll move.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the consent agenda. Takes us to item 41, which is,
Did you not do yours?
Want to do the hearing?
Hearings.
oh, we're after 5, I'm sorry. It's after 5 o'clock. We will go straight to the hearings. First hearing item is item 50, which is, and show that we began the hearings at 5:05. On the assessment of a $500 penalty to the following liquor license holders for violation of the Iowa alcoholic beverage laws, sale to minors, the La Prairie Cafe at 1517 2nd Avenue, and B, the West End Lounge at 2309 Forest Avenue. Anyone in the audience to speak on either of those items, either A or B? Seeing
Move.
none? Been moved? Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
Item 51, the assessment of a $1,500 penalty and a 30-day suspension of liquor license at Best Tap at 1516 Southeast 1st Street for a violation of the Iowa alcoholic beverage law, sale to minors. Anyone here to speak on that item? Seeing none?
I'll move.
Seven yes.
Item 52, on the agreement for acquisition of sales tax deeds to 3132 Kingman Boulevard and 1147 27th Street and conveyance to Dennis Merchant for development of housing, council communication number 11-042.
I'll move these, and I'm pleased that there's no restriction on the income restriction on the individuals that they'll be able to sell these to. Denny does a great job with his developments.
Seven yes.
Item 53, on the conveyance of underground electric line easement at 2211 Littell Avenue to Mid-American Energy for $1. Anyone to speak on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Move.
Seven yes.
Item 54, on the conveyance of city-owned property located near I-235 and Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway to Hatch Development LLC for $24,000. Properties 3 and 6 continued from January 10th, 2011. Council communication number 11-033. We have a speaker.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Carol Bauer. I'm a consultant for Hatch Development, 1312 Locust Street in Des Moines. We have worked on these two properties. The first thing I would like to do is present the Laner Street property, 2003 Laner Street. We did, in fact, this is the property, and we did, in fact, get a letter from the Board of Directors and the neighboring house, and I would like to present those.
And I think we forwarded to all of the council members, or as part of the council packet, the letter from the Sherman Hill Board of Directors.
Okay, and we
And they're
will
all
be
in support?
working, we
Yes.
will be working very closely with the neighboring homeowners and the board to achieve this. The second site is 1055 and 1059 MLK. And we did visit, Brian Galloway visited over the phone with the neighboring, the Bowers, who live next door at 1051. I visited them on Friday, and Jack Hatch visited them on Sunday. I did make one error in quoting to Meg Bauer that the price for the two properties was $7,500 apiece. It is not. It's $7,500 for both. So I wanted to clarify that in case she is here in opposition tonight. They did oppose the project. She did ask what concessions we might do. I asked what they wanted. They said they wanted a privacy fence that they could not afford to put up. Jack Hatch has totally agreed to do the privacy fence for them if that's what they would like. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Bowers at all. I will let them speak for themselves. This is an important project for the development of the Greystones. We need a certain number to go to IFA, and this project is important. We have 11 or 12 Greystones right along MLK, going north to Forest Avenue. And there is adjoining properties across the street, not adjoining, but properties across the street, all the way up MLK that we have had approval on from the Drake neighbors, and there will be several of them also on 19th Street and Day Street and in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. So we would ask that you approve this application, and also that we did request a waiver at the time of the last meeting before this continuation, a waiver to vacate the right-of-ways for our proposed site. I present that and ask you to respect that waiver for the third hearing, if that's at all possible for this. Any questions?
I appreciate the work that you've done to sit down with all the parties involved to work on this. And I'm not seeing the property owner,
Are the Bowers here?
are the Bowers here? Seeing that they're not here, and the fact that Jack has made a commitment that he would put a privacy fence in,
Yes.
I think that technically they've had adequate time to have some discussions or try to look at if they would be successful in purchasing it. And I've not heard anything back from them. So I'm comfortable going ahead and moving item 54. And we did publish the first reading. We waived it last time.
We're done. All that
We're
needs to
done.
be approved now is
Okay.
the conveyance.
Okay. I'll move 54.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
7 yes.
Item 55, on the proposed amendment to the first 2010 year action plan of the 2010 to 14 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD Consolidated Plan. Council Communication number 11-041.
Mayor,
A is a 2010 program allocation for the Home Investments Partnerships Program to add a tenant-based rental assistance TBRA activity. Yes.
I was just going to move this and let you know that we've seen this program before. We have to have our agreement with HUD catch up to what we've approved in terms of a homeless outreach project, which is underway this year, and in cooperation with other partners that are helping to fund it and partners that are pulling it off. We've been out inviting people off the street. No no bullying or heavy-handedness, but trying to get people to seek shelter, guaranteeing it for them for a year as they work their way through some programs in the community. And this allows us to use federal funds for that when we pass it and have it approved. So I'll move it.
There was a very nice story in the paper last week, I thought, on that, on one of the recipients.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the hearings, and we'll show that they ended at 5:14. Takes us back to item 41. Item 41 is on the proposal to create an airport authority, council communication number 11-055. Are there any presenters or questions or answers that, following our last discussion on this?
I do have one thing maybe to ask the manager. We had a number of suggestions. I think all of us had some questions or suggestions about it. One of them, I know because I made it, was about accountability and reporting back to the council. And we talked about one way to do that is to have an ex officio member of the board, part of all, not a voting member, but representing the council and the city, and maybe it would be the city manager. Were you able to get that done?
Mr. Coleman, council members, I did have a chance to talk with Bruce Bergman and representatives from the airport, and there is a modification of the ordinance which does stipulate that the city manager would be an ex officio member of the airport authority.
Excellent.
For the reason that you suggested.
For communication, deliberations, meetings,
to bring
that kind
back
of
to the council so that you have a sort of an unfiltered view of what's going on.
What other changes happened? Anything?
Mr. Coleman, council members, the blue letter contains a lot of information in response to the questions that came up. You had discussion about establishing goals, and for the authority, there is quite a write-up in the blue letter about that, and just other clarifications that are contained within the letter. But the ordinance is essentially as it was before with the amendment of the ex officio member.
As well as a real detailed listing of all the goals.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'll go ahead and move.
Five yes, two no.
Takes us to item 42, amending Chapter 126 of the Municipal Code, adding a new section regarding the issuance of a probationary certificate of public convenience and necessity for vehicles for hire. And we asked the manager and the city attorney to give us some information in regard to that, and I will turn it over to which one of you would like to start?
Well, Mr. Mayor, the attorney has drafted an ordinance as you directed, and it's on the agenda, and Bruce can probably give you the high points.
Essentially, Mayor and Council, essentially this is a pretty simple ordinance change. In the midst of our discussion last fall concerning whether or not a certificate of convenience and necessity could be issued, I was asked whether or not there was such a thing as a probationary certificate, and there was not. So as a result of our discussions, we've prepared something. It is incorporated in what it is that's before you right now. Simply put, if the council determines that there is a public need for further taxi cab service, but you're unable to fully satisfy yourself that of the fitness, willingness, or ability of the applicant is met, you're relatively comfortable with it, as you've done on a number of other occasions with taxi cab drivers and in other areas. You could, if you pass this, direct the issuance of a probationary certificate. This would be what we've provided for is a one-year probationary period. City traffic engineer would have the obligation to advise the council if he determines that this certificate holder has violated an ordinance regulating taxi cab service or any other laws relating to public transportation safety, or operated in such a manner to indicate an inability to provide reliable taxi cab service. The city council could act in that event to revoke a probationary certificate following a public hearing. Keeping in mind, and I think that we mentioned this to you last fall when we discussed this, you can actually, have never done it, at least since I've been here, but you can actually consider suspension of a regularly issued certificate after pre-court convictions in an 18-month period. If you do end up issuing a probationary certificate and nothing happens within that one-year period, that is, you're not brought any convictions or other issues, then the probationary certificate as a matter of ordinance or as a matter of law becomes a regular certificate at that time. So that's basically what's in front of you tonight for discussion.
Ms. Henson.
Couple questions. So assuming that we pass this tonight, which includes a probationary period for the taxi cab companies that would want to come forward, will they then have to go through the same hearing process, or how will those individuals that we have denied previously be handled?
They will go through the same application process, seeking a recommendation from our city traffic engineer. Mr. Fox and his office will review it, make a recommendation, bring it up, and you'll have a hearing on it at that point.
So they start the process all over again?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Then the question of necessity, how do we determine, is there a need? And I guess what I hear you saying and what I'm reading into the ordinance is that the probationary period would allow us to determine whether or not there's a necessity, but that at the same time could be harmful to existing companies.
No, you really determine that. If you don't find that there is a matter of public convenience and necessity, then don't issue a probationary certificate.
So it's going to be completely up to city staff to make that determination?
No, they'll make
a recommendation.
They'll make a recommendation to you.
But it'll be up to the council.
And you, yeah, just as they made a recommendation last fall, and then it's up to you.
I guess the question I still have in my mind is, though, it seems like you almost need to have an independent third party look at making that recommendation in conjunction with the staff.
Well, that would be an option that you could. We have got a city traffic engineer who's been dealing with these issues for a long time, and his staff as well. I mean, Gary's not the only one there. Mike Berry, for example, has, they've taken a look at these for many years. You could ask them. I know they've done a great deal of study, and they could give you their opinion. And if you chose, you could accept that, reject that, or you could say, well, we'd like to have somebody else take a look at it. All those options are open to you.
I would say, Mrs. Hensley, council members, the staff is really not, there's no reason for staff to be biased or have a conflict on the issue of market.
I understand.
And would, I am confident, give you an objective judgment from their perspective. As Bruce said, you always have the option of getting other information if you want to have it, and that would be available to you if you would choose to do it. But I wouldn't necessarily assume that the staff would be conflicted or biased in that reporting.
When their probationary period would be the end of the year, would that come back for us to review whether or not they had a problem or not, or would that just automatically go forward?
We prepared it in such a fashion that it would automatically go forward at that time, with the idea that if there are problems, we'll bring them to you now.
When they occur?
Correct.
Bruce, the council would have the option of directing staff to give a report back at some date certain, so you would have information.
Absolutely could.
If you wanted to put it back on your agenda, you could certainly have that option if you chose to have it.
Absolutely, absolutely could.
Skip?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we established a cap on how many licenses we could issue, and if we did, how would that affect probationary?
Well, you re-vote on that every time that something ends up coming up in front of you. So if you say, I think essentially what you said is the number of cabs that are in the certificate. I'm looking for Gary for a nod if that's correct. The number of cabs that were covered in the certificate, I think was where you ended up on that. Then you end up with another presentation at the next council meeting, as an example, and somebody presents information, and you make your own judgment at that time based on the information that is presented to you then. So what you did last week doesn't really matter in that respect.
Okay.
Do other cities have this type of ordinance? Is this typical for?
That would be Mr. Fox.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Gary Fox, City Traffic Engineer. Mrs. Hensley, I'm not sure if you mean an ordinance that allows the probationary.
Yeah, the probationary.
Not that I'm aware of. I know our ordinance follows a lot of similar ordinances in other cities that we've looked at in the Midwest in particular. I'm not aware of seeing a provision before about a probationary certificate.
But we haven't really looked for it.
No, we didn't really research that specifically, and there is quite a bit of variation as well as you get into, so there certainly could be some. I'm just not aware of any.
Any other questions? Ally?
I don't have any questions, but I'll move if no others.
Okay, the item's been moved.
I
We do have a speaker, it looks like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've had a chance to visit with some of the people that have been turned down in their application, and I appreciate their conversations with me. There's a couple aspects of this that I'm still not entirely comfortable with. Bruce and I have had the chance to exchange some thoughts about a court ruling that remands some issues to district court. And, one of my goals is that maybe we'd have all those answers before we started to rewrite our local ordinance and make changes to it. I think he and I disagree a little bit on how we should consider that, but that concerns me. The other is that even in the probationary period, we still carry forward this requirement that the council deem there to be a necessity. The way I read the ordinance, Bruce, is before we can issue it, we have to say there's necessity for it. And I still feel like we're at where we were before. We're just arguing whether or not it should be for 360 days or for longer. And I'm not quite sure we've fixed the problem yet, but this is the first reading too, and the Supreme Court ruling, as I understand it, only came down today or Friday or something.
Last week.
Yeah, we had a Court of Appeals ruling on Thursday, and actually procedendo, or that order from the court that makes it a final ruling, typically it's 30 days, so we won't have that for about 4 weeks from right now.
Okay.
We have a speaker.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, William Lillis, 317 6th Avenue, Suite 300. I'm appearing on behalf of Trans Iowa. We became aware of this proposed amendment. I know the council talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we've seen the text, and if I'm understanding Bruce, I'm not disagreeing with his interpretation. It sounds like as what we call condition precedent, there must be this finding of a convenience and necessity on each and every situation. My recollection is a lot like Councilman Moore's comment, I believe, was that when we were here last fall, that there was lengthy hearings, at least on behalf of our client. We took away from that discussion and that finding that there were numbers that would be attributed to each of the respective cab companies. We have some concerns as to the procedure. I understand what the legal counsel is saying regarding the proposed ordinance and the amendment to the ordinance, but if you have to visit each and every time, and I think that's the way the ordinance is drafted, the convenience question, I guess we could come back each and every time and deal with that on an individual basis, but we want to be certain that we understand, at least procedurally, before you'd adopt an ordinance or the council would adopt an ordinance, that that is in fact what we're dealing with. So we're a little unclear on exactly what it is, but I think I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah, just to be clear, I think our understanding is the same, Bill. There has to be a finding of convenience, public convenience and necessity before a certificate of convenience and necessity is issued, whether it is regular or whether it is probationary. It doesn't matter. There still has to be that. And you don't, again, you don't go to the end after you've issued it on a probationary period. The reason that you don't go to the end to make that finding is when you issue a, under this code amendment, when you issue a certificate of convenience and necessity on a probationary basis, you're allowing them to operate. So it wouldn't really make any sense for you to wait until that period is over and then decide whether or not public convenience and necessity requires you to issue them.
That's the first step, I guess, is what you're saying. And I'm agreeing with the way that that's drafted.
Correct.
I just want to be sure I was clear.
Correct. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Christine, do you have something else?
One other question. Did we ever resolve the issue as to the taxi cab stewards on Court Avenue and the airport? That was also...
I might be able to speak to that if I could, Mayor.
Okay.
Since the last time we were here, we had engaged the consultant. We sent that consultant report to the manager, and we filed it with the council a couple weeks ago, I think, right, frankly, before your last meeting. And we also have quantified the number of dollars that our client is spending out at the airport for the steward and, frankly, down on Court Avenue. And I think the airport authority and/or the airport was working with us and maybe the manager's office in some fashion to find out how that could be relegated. Because just as we thought would happen and has continued to happen is that the cabs that go and use the airport, candidly, they don't pay for the steward. Our client's paying the whole amount of dollars, both at the airport. I think we can find a procedure to do it. They talked about a chip and whether the cabs could be automatically charged and a debit as they go out, but we haven't gone through the procedure. But we were on our way to visit about that, so we still want to do that.
And would that work at Court Avenue as well?
That might be more difficult to do, but not necessarily. We're trying to see if there could be a way to do it where they, in this technological age, whether they could just actually be charged and debited for that service whenever they used it, the respective cabs. So I think we can work through that, but we haven't resolved that. But we would be working with the airport authority and or the manager's office to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think we have a motion. Ellie, put on the...
I'm going to vote no at this time. I'd like to be able to vote yes on future readings, but I don't want to send any mixed signals because I still think there's some issues to be resolved.
You've been waiting all these years.
Mr. Coleman?
It'll...
5 yes, 2 no.
All right. Item 43, amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. Council Communication Number 11-037. A, parking restriction due to the opening of the new Hyatt Place on 6th Avenue. B, removal of loading zone adjacent to 515 18th Street and replacement with metered parking. C, minor parking changes on Locust Street between 13th and 15th Streets. D, additional metered parking on East 6th Street between East Grand Avenue and East Walnut Street. E, restricted parking from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays on 34th Street between Douglas and Seneca Avenue. F, traffic regulations for Southwest 11th Street from West M.L. King Jr. Parkway to Dartway and Murphy Street from Southwest 9th to Southwest 11th Street. G, authorize the superintendent of schools to appoint a member of the Traffic Safety Committee representing schools citywide to replace the ex officio member from the citywide PTA. And H, allow one-side parking on East 35th Street and Arthur Avenue. Is there anyone here to speak on any of these items?
I'll move 43A through
H.
H. Thank you.
Is there a second and third reading on this as well, or just this?
Yes. We'll waive it according to the non-pre-published.
To include the motion to waive the non-pre-published?
7 yes?
44, amending Chapter 74 of the Municipal Code regarding Brenton Skating Plaza bike rental fees, Council Communication Number 11-044. Anyone here to speak on this item? Have a motion?
Move.
Seven yes?
Item 45, amending Chapter 74 of the Municipal Code regarding 2011 golf course fees, Council Communication Number 11-045. Anyone in the audience to speak on this item?
I'll move.
I have a question. Don, does this exceed or approximate the fees that were in place before we outsourced this?
Mayor, County, members of council, Councilmember Mahaffey, Don Tripp, Park and Recreation Director. This is an increase in some areas, some fees. I will tell you that
Grandview.
we had reduced fees pretty dramatically about 5 years ago as a way to try to capture more marketplace, and we held the line on that. Had we continued with this operation ourselves, we'd be back here adjusting these fees as pretty much as you see today. We've taken this back to the Citizens Golf Committee and the Park Board. They've all endorsed this to this point.
So do these fees approximate what it was at that point in time?
Probably a little bit higher. I guess I can't recall what that reduction was exactly in 2005, but probably similar to that amount.
Well, at Grandview, they're about double what they
What's the
were.
number?
Well, it varies. I'll turn to my summary here for you folks.
Well, while you're looking, my concern is if we price them too high, that it's going to reduce the sizable amount of play at any of the courses.
Yeah, we have a 9-hole weekday rate was $8, $12, and $16, Grandview, Blank, and Waveland. We are increasing Grandview from 8 to 12 and Blank from 12 to 14. 18-hole weekend, which is the other kind of typical rate used. Is not changed, is the same, 22 at Grandview, 26 at Blank, 30 at Waveland. There are some miscellaneous changes in terms of passes. In fact, some of them are a reduction. The unrestricted 7-day badge pass, which was $11.25 at Grandview, which is a pass that you can buy that allows you to play 7 days a week year-round, has actually been reduced to $1,000. The other thing that we always do, council members, is we can try to compare this to fees that are in the area. These continue to be the lowest fees in the area, particularly at Grandview. Our Waveland and Blank fees are very competitive. We've maintained a relatively low set of fees compared to the rest of the marketplace, and I think that has resulted in a higher level of play on our courses. So I'm really comfortable with this adjustment, and as I said before, the fees that you're seeing in front of you, even had we been operating them, we'd be bringing them back at this level.
What's the hours of the twilight fees?
Excuse me?
What is the hour of the twilight fees?
Mayor, I have to...
I think it's 5 o'clock, isn't
Says-
it?
Sounds like a golfer.
Doesn't say.
Yeah. Is that right, folks? Is it 4? Yeah. Jim Calvert's in the back of the room, by the way, our chair of our golf committee, and Ned Chido. When they tell me 4 o'clock, I'll take your word for it.
Understand?
It says noon to twilight.
Noon?
Weekends, it's noon?
Come on up, Ned.
That's better yet.
In the weekend, noon?
9-hole weekend, yeah, noon to twilight.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ned Chido, 3131 Fleur Drive, representing C Corporation. The twilight rates on weekends, we go from the regular rate down to a weekday rate at 12 o'clock noon, and then at 4 o'clock we further reduce them.
On weekends.
Right.
So during the week, it's after 4 o'clock?
Weekdays, we don't have a twilight rate.
It's, I thought that he said that they did.
Ned, it says on here noon to twilight on 9-hole weekend special. So it's noon until dusk or till you can't play anymore?
Yes.
Okay. So it's noon on through the rest of the day?
Right.
Okay.
On the rate sheet here, Ned, it says you have a twilight rate of $13.
Where at?
I have no idea.
Oh, that
weekend between noon
yeah,
and-
that's what I'm talking about.
That's your weekend rate?
That's our weekday rate.
Weekend.
Weekend or weekday?
18-hole weekend special between noon and twilight. It's that incremental rate between noon and later in the afternoon. And then your rate at night drops permanently to 13.
Okay, so when does that start?
During the day?
During weekdays?
We reduce rates at noon, and then we reduce them again at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Weekends.
Weekends.
Okay, so let's start over. That's okay, we'll figure it out when I go out there to play.
You get a good deal no matter what it is.
I appreciate it. All right, any further questions? Yes.
Don, could you tell me how much of every dollar it's increased, what percentage of that does the city gain?
Well, it varies from course to course. The contracts are a little bit different. Believe, Ben, you have those numbers related to our contract. We originally had a contract to blank, and that contract continued. We outsourced all of Waveland and Grandview here just last year. This is our first full season of operation.
It's a great question to which I bet we can't get a perfect answer tonight. And so
Either that
rather
or
than
I'll
try
bet
to-
Ned's got the answer.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, if Ned's
Somebody
not-
up here will have it, I'll bet.
Okay.
Flat fee.
Depends on exactly what you want, but we'd pay a percentage on the gross. The gross percentage at Waveland is 15%. The gross percentage at blank is 10%. The gross percentage at Grandview is a ratio between total revenues at Grandview and blank. So it will vary depending on what the gross revenues are. But if you're talking now down to the bottom line, the city's guaranteed those percentages of gross revenue, and C Corporation basically has to hope that there's something left over. The economic model is structured so that when you get to the end and you split up what's left over, the city and C Corporation basically split what's left over 50-50.
That's at the end of the season.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's how an economic model works out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
I will move item, what do we got? 44.
45.
45, okay. Thanks for the information, Ned.
7 yes?
See you, Ned.
Clear as mud.
Mr. Coleman, should we take a quick break? I think I see some folks here with a big piece of large check.
You think so?
I think maybe. I think we ought to, they came in, I know that they've got a tight schedule. If you guys would like, they asked that.
That's extra item one.
I know,
So,
but they-
go ahead and have them do it. And just
Okay.
say, let's take it out of order.
Okay, we're going to take out order extra item 1. That's you guys. Mr. Stowe, do you want to come down? You spend all this money, so,
Thought it was for me.
I'll give you the other mic.
We'll make our presentation over here. Go ahead.
Council members,
thank you for adjusting your agenda to let us speak firstly. I kind of dragging my feet because I've never held this much money before. This check is sizable, and I know it goes to good use, as we see the Public Works Director here. But in cooperation with Prairie Meadows, we are happy to give a check to the City of Des Moines for over $4 million. And we value the partnership that we have with Des Moines. And on behalf of the Board of Directors of Prairie Meadows, we thank you for all the cooperation that we have between Prairie Meadows and the City of Des Moines.
Thank you.
Oh, and my name is Lynette Rasmussen, if I didn't say that. I'm new to be the newly elected chairman of the board of Prairie Meadows. I've been on the board for 4 years and have 2 years left of my appointment.
Let's give them a great big hand, everybody. And
Really wants that check because he doesn't want it to get lost.
Look at him standing there.
This is a decision that was made a number of years ago by the City Council to work with Prairie Meadows and Polk County. And we, I suppose, would have the option of bonding, but we decided to use these dollars to go directly to doing specific projects. And I'll ask our Public Works Director here to talk about our roadway improvement sign that's going to go out on every project, right, that is funded. But because of the partnership between the city and Prairie Meadows and Polk County, we are able to do a lot of work on a lot of bridges and streets that otherwise would not be able to be done. So thank you so much for your work and efforts at Prairie Meadows, and thank you for being our partners. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Bill Stowe.
Thank you very much on behalf of the city to Prairie Meadows and Racy. We're very appreciative of the money. As the mayor and city council know, the street improvement system in the city of Des Moines is entirely based upon Prairie Meadows and road use taxes, not on tax dollars at all. So we're very appreciative for this $4 million. It is absolutely vital to keeping our road system and snow and ice off the road system this time of the year. So again, our sincere appreciation to Prairie Meadows and to Racy. Thanks again for all of your help over the years.
All right. Let's, if you guys will get right up here, we'll, Bill, I think you probably should be up here. You're the guys going to spend this money. So. All right, got it? Thank you so much. When everybody knows that's watching that we will take items out of order when somebody brings a check over $4 million.
Do we need to move to receive and file that?
Nope, let's just take it.
It's already in the bank, isn't it?
It must be an attorney.
All right. Let's go to item 46. It's from the Chair of the Park and Recreation Board regarding the 2011 Financial Assistance Program for various Park and Recreation Department programs and facilities.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, Joe Galloway, 3622 Davison Road, Des Moines, Park Board Chair. You should have a letter in your packet from me, two-page letter describing our financial assistance program in the park system. And the name of our program is the Experience Greater Des Moines Pass. Now, we've had a financial assistance program going on for several years now, and we've greatly expanded it for 2011, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. One expansion we made is that we got rid of the paperwork, and to me that's very important. In the past, in connection with the federal stimulus money, we had to ask people to bring in documents to prove how much they made, and fortunately, we're not going to be doing that anymore. We're going to be taking people's word for it. Another expansion is we've raised the eligibility limit from 200% of the federal poverty guideline up to 225% of the federal poverty guideline. Another expansion is in the swimming program. We've increased the scholarship amount from 50% up to 75%. And in some cases, if need be, we'll pay 100% of a person's need. And we've also greatly increased the availability of swimming lessons. In the past, they've been offered during the summer at city pools. And of course, a couple of times we've had flooding issues, especially at Birdland Pool. But now, in addition to the summer program at city pools, we're also offering programs at East High School in partnership with the Des Moines Public Schools during the spring. So that way we're going to be reaching out to more people using a different facility and getting a lot more people learning how to swim. Because our objective is that everybody in Des Moines, every child anyway, should know how to swim. And fortunately, in the last several years, no children have drowned at any public facilities, knock on wood. And we want to keep things that way. And I do want to mention that the financial assistance for the swimming program is being underwritten by the Friends of Des Moines Parks, our partner charity. This is the third year in a row that the Friends of Des Moines Parks has supported and paid for the swimming scholarships. And this year, Friends of Des Moines Parks has pledged $10,500 to pay for the greatly expanded swimming program, including that's being offered at East High School. So I did want to mention our appreciation for the help from Friends of Des Moines Parks. Are there any questions?
Joe, would you have information as to how many families or individuals are taking advantage of the programs? And has that increased? It's been in existence for 3 years. Has it increased each year? Or?
It's been up and down because of the flooding issues at Birdland Park, for one thing. And then another thing that kind of may have depressed attendance a little bit in the last year, well, actually two things. One, the City Source newsletter did not go out in paper form last year, and that was where a lot of it was advertised. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, the paperwork that was required by the federal stimulus program, that may have discouraged some people. They just said, heck, it's not worth it.
Okay.
And now we've done away with that. We're just going to take their word for it, and I think that will work out fine.
Okay.
As far as actual numbers, it's several hundred.
Okay.
I
I'm just real
don't
pleased
remember
with the
the exact
makeup of
number.
the swimming lessons since Red Cross, because they discontinued the swimming program was it
Right.
3 years ago, and so the Friends picked it up through the schools and Parks and Rec and other avenues.
Right.
Okay.
So several hundred, and hopefully it will be a lot more in 2011. And hopefully it will continue to grow because, like I said, we want everybody, every child to learn how to swim.
Excellent. I'll move to receive and file.
Excellent.
Joe, you might as well hang out. 7-0. Item 47 is from Joe Galloway of 3622 Davison Road to speak regarding a proposed model bicycle ordinance.
And can we get the projector to focus on that? There we go. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Joe Galloway, 3622 Davison Road, Des Moines. And here I need to take off my park board hat, and I'm just here as a private citizen because the park board has not looked at this issue. But as you may have heard, the Metropolitan Advisory Council, or MAC, is proposing to bring forward a model bicycle ordinance for all the central Iowa communities. And then after the MAC produces a final form, it would go out to the cities and they would all hopefully vote on it, and then all the cities would have an identical bicycle ordinance. I'm very supportive of this idea. I hope it works. I want to move it forward. But I do have a concern about one thing, and it's here, item number 12, place of riding, which in a nutshell says that a rider shall ride to the right-hand side of the road as close to the curb as practical. And I believe that's an unsafe practice. And I can tell you my personal experience, and I can also refer you to expert opinions. My personal experience in 40 years of riding on streets and highways all year round is that is an unsafe way to ride. What I do is I ride, well, not in the center of the lane, but you have to get out far enough so that cars actually see you, that you're riding sort of where cars are expected to be driving. And then sure, when a car comes along, I get right over and let the car go by. Everybody's happy. I'm safe. And the drivers are happy. I don't get honked at. Nobody yells at me or gives me the finger. So everybody's happy. And that's also supported by expert opinion. For instance, this is the Bible right here, Effective Cycling by John Forrester about riding in city traffic. And on pages 285 to 292, he describes how this is an unsafe practice to ride over as far as practical to the right-hand side, and that cities should not be requiring this. It's also important to note that the state of Iowa does not require anything like this. Neither does West Des Moines, neither does Clive. They've all been in existence for many years, decades. In the state of Iowa, more than a century, and they haven't had any problems. So I don't think that's really a needed piece of legislation. Now, this, the reason I'm up here is this came from the 1944 Uniform Vehicle Code, which the city of Des Moines adopted. So in other words, the MAC is taking this from the city of Des Moines ordinance, which is why I'm standing up here. And even if you thought back in 1944, and by the way, you're off the hook because presumably you weren't on the council then, but
Christine was.
I was not. That's pretty cruel.
But even if a person thought that was a good idea back in 1944, which I don't think it was, but if you did, a lot has happened since then. The Uniform Vehicle Code has been substantially updated since that time. Now there is a long laundry list of exceptions to the right-hand rule, which MAC is not using. And so they're not up to the state of the art, even if you thought this rule was something that was needed. Now back to this original rule, the 1944 Des Moines ordinance. It contradicts itself. You'll notice at the end it says riders may go two abreast. Well, if two riders are riding abreast, the one on the left-hand side obviously isn't riding to the right-hand side of the road, so it contradicts itself. And also, get this, it doesn't say that if you're riding two abreast, you have to move over to let cars go by. Now, I know as a motorist, that's something that makes people very angry, is when two or three bikes are blocking the road and they won't move over. And I'm against that because that gives bicyclists a bad name. But it doesn't say they have to move over. Now, you might say, well, I'm just imagining some hobgoblin just to make an argument, but that's not the case. The drafters of the Uniform Vehicle Code realized, oops, there is that problem. So later on, they did say that if people ride two abreast, that they have to move over and make way for traffic. But that's not contained in the Des Moines City Ordinance. So no matter how you look at it, the Des Moines City Ordinance is out of date, and if you accept my opinion, it's not needed at all. So I would ask for you to take a close look at getting rid of this, if possible, when it becomes a model ordinance, or at least it needs to be substantially updated. Thank you.
All right, good motion, probably to receive and file and give it to Bruce to rule on before he leaves, but anyway, go ahead.
Just as a timeline, we've had discussion, as you know, Joe, at the MAC meeting, and we've are working with city staff to do a workshop on this amendment, or this ordinance, and so we'll ask that this be incorporated, your comments be incorporated into the presentation that's made to the council at the workshop.
Joe, has this been run by the Des Moines Bicycle Coalition?
They're members of the group that's been sitting down having discussions on this.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Motion to receive and file, and when we know what the date is for the workshop, I don't know what that date is, if we can make sure that Joe knows, as well as Ruth Randleman, who's been the chair of the committee working on it at MAC. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
7 yes.
Item 48 from Highland Park SMID Board regarding the recommended budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2011. Anyone here representing that board? If not, I think we'll just move to receive and file.
Their SMID has been going along very successfully, and that they want to continue to do that.
7 yes.
Item 49 is the receipt of the 2010 Polk County Assessor's Annual Report. Anybody to speak or any comments on that?
I'll move. Receive and file.
Seven yes.
Takes us to item 56, which is regarding the application by Hewlett-Packard Company to Iowa Department of Economic Development seeking financial assistance from the Grow Iowa Values Fund, High Quality Jobs Creation Program, and other state programs, and preliminary approval of the terms of agreement for the expansion of the facility at 3600 Army Post Road, Council Communication number 11-039. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on this item?
I will move this item. I think it's a wonderful addition for the city of Des Moines. I'm extremely pleased with it. Rick and I did have a conversation before the council meeting, and maybe just to share with the rest of the council, if there's a way from a city perspective when you're providing assistance to companies that are expanding with job creation, I would like to just have the staff take a look at whether or not we could do anything that would attract and retain those individuals to purchase homes and stay within the city of Des Moines. I know that's a difficult one, but I think I'd like to see if there's some options out there that we could have discussions with the employers as well. But this is wonderful and very pleased with it.
Mrs. Hensley and council members, yes, this, Christine and I did talk about that. It is sort of difficult to do that, but we're going to take another look at it and see if there's some creative way to do it. This is a wonderful project, though. This is a great company. It's a big addition, 150 new jobs, but it also retains the 440 full-time positions that are there as well. And it also has a very nice addition to the tax base. So it's the kind of deal you like to see every day. I'm very pleased with our staff who brought the deal forward and working with the state. And it's just a good project for the city, so we heartily endorse it to you.
Item's been moved. Mr. Coleman?
Seven yes.
Could we have a motion to adjourn as City Council and reconvene as Board of Health? It's been moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We now sit as the Board of Health. We have, is our first item, approving the legal department to proceed with court action seeking the authority to abate the public nuisance at the following locations. A is 3740 Indianapolis Avenue. It's a main structure and garage structure. B is 2704 Lion Street, an accessory structure. In this case, it's a shed. And C is 1257 East 12th Street. It's a main structure. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on either A, B, or C? Seeing none, could we have a motion to proceed? Been moved?
Seven yes.
Could we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. For everybody in the audience listening, on the 31st day of January, we are going to have a retirement party for the gentleman sitting to my left and your right, and that'll be from 1 to 3 in the council chambers. And so we would like to have everybody that could attend this extravagant event. And Ms. Hensley, did you have anything that you wanted to say at this time?
We're still working on the date.
Okay. All right. So until the 31st, then call Bruce. Other than that, we sit adjourned.